Hey everyone, welcome to a detour. My name is Cecily. I'll be your instructor today. We're going to be exploring all kinds of hip movements that I've been inspired to use by a chiropractor here in Toronto, Dr. Andrea Spina. His system, functional range conditioning, has been a game changer for me, and I can't wait to share it with you. So just before we dive in, we're going to do a couple of preliminary warm-up exercises. It might be useful to have a block or something that you can stand on, like a step, nearby, and we'll get started. The first thing I'm going to do is using a wall for support. So just so we don't have to worry so much about balance, you can really zero in on what's happening here in the hip. So I'm going to stand nice and tall, lifting up that right leg in front of me, and I want to actively feel that heel pulling in towards my sit bone so my hamstrings are engaged. I'm just going to keep the right arm here out of the way. Opening up that leg towards external rotation. I get to the point where I feel like my knee can't go any further, and then it's going to tip and do some internal rotation combined with hip extension as the knee goes back around behind me. And then it floats in underneath, and I start it again. Noticing here that I'm not doing a huge amount of movement up top. I'm actually trying to contract through my core, contract through my supporting leg, and then use that stability in the rest of my body for support as I isolate the mobility here in the moving leg. Let's change directions and kick that heel back. Lift it up wide. Think knee to shoulder, and then pull it back in front. Kick it back. Notice I'm keeping that heel squeezing to my bum the whole time. Bring it back around. Down, last one, all the way through that full circle. And then give it a little shake. We'll turn around to the other side. Standing tall, picking up that left leg, moving lots of strength down through that right heel, and then actively externally rotating. Taking that right arm out of the way so you can move the leg through internal, back to extension of the hip. And up. Again, I'm trying not to do a lot of back bending here. That would look like this. So I'm reining in the spine, using the strength of my abs. One more time that way. And then I'll switch it up. Squeezing that heel in towards my hip. Really working down through the right leg to create more upward lift through the left. One more time. Pressing down, lifting up. And then letting it shake out. Now I'm going to find my block. Feel free to do this exercise again using a wall, so it's again not about balance. I'm going to step up onto my left, floating off my right. My leg that I'm standing on will stay straight, and I'm consciously going to tip my pelvis to find the floor with that right heel, and then I'm going to squeeze that area right outside my left hip to pull back up. Drop back down, pull back up. Of course, it's all right if your knee bends a little bit, keeping it unlocked, but the emphasis here is on the hip as opposed to a more traditional step up, which is ankle knee. All right, so letting that hip drift happen, that little tilt. Let's do one more, feeling that activation happening. And then swap legs. As we come up onto that right side, noticing here whether or not this feels like the best height for you to be working with. If that block feels too high, feel free to find something like a hardcover book that's a little bit less of a drop for your hip. Let's do 3 more, feeling that hip move out and then squeezing it back in, thinking about the muscles around the bone there, hugging it in toward the midline. Last time. Great. And then we're going to come down off the block. You just set it off to the side and then comfortably make your way down onto your mat into our 90-90 position, which means we want to arrange our legs so that the right knee is in line with that front hip and the left knee is in line with the back hip. Okay? I'm working here in an engaged position, so I'm not just going to relax everything. I want to turn on my feet, turn on my legs, feel really rooted down through my hips So then I get a little bit more of an upward lift through my upper body. It might feel like you're falling over right now toward the direction of your front leg. That's totally normal. The more time we spend on the floor in general and the more time we spend in 90-90, the easier it's going to get to be here. So for now, I'm just going to face my front leg. Place the hands wherever you feel you need them. If you don't need them, they can stay in toward the chest. And I'm going to build up energy down through the floor, pressing it away from me. As I keep the action here of pushing the legs down, it makes it easier to keep my chest up. But then I can counter that in the opposite direction. Instead of pushing my legs down into the floor, I could think of trying to lift that right thigh in toward the chest. And as I do that, it's almost a natural inclination to hinge toward it, which increases the load on that leg. So I'm not dropping forward. It's not a pigeon pose. I'm simply allowing my spine to hinge forward as I work to try and lift that whole leg up off the floor. Obviously, it's not going anywhere, but it's about the intention and that work now coming from my inner thigh. So once we explore the push and the pull, I'm then going to lean my weight back into my arms and just explore what's happening here in the left hip. Give me a little bit of a self-massage. I'm rolling that thigh bone forward and back. As I take it forward, my sit bone's definitely lifted off the floor. As I roll it back, I'm trying to bring my bum, my sit bone closer to the mat. Let's do that one more time. And then I'm going to keep my awareness in that left leg. The next time I roll back, I'm going to point the toe, keep my hands behind me, and start to open up that left leg, noticing there that the right leg didn't move. As I move into that external rotation, if you feel any kind of sensation in the knee, we need to adjust that leg a little bit because I don't want you to feel it here. I want the awareness to mostly be in the tissue around the hip, maybe inner thigh, maybe outer glute, maybe hamstrings. When you move, it might feel like you hit a wall at a certain point. That's fine. You stay at that range for now, and over time, we can look for it to start to change a little bit. If this is feeling easy for you, feel free to lift your hands off the floor and work without them. And of course, you want to then add from external rotation, our internal rotation component as well. So I'm going to rotate my upper body forward. You're welcome to place your hands down if that feels more comfortable. Flexing that left foot, I'm now going to think of rotating that left thigh down. The lifting of the foot is a consequence of the rotation. So rather than just think of lifting your foot, really imagine that thigh bone rolling forward. And any amount of lift there in the foot is fine. Doesn't have to be super high. That's not the point. Like the earlier exercises, if it feels like you can do this without your hands, great. Just notice if you're relying on a forward lean to lift the leg. We want to try and stay upright, even if that means the range gets a little smaller. I'm going to do one more here. And now I'm going to use my right hand just for a little bit of insurance, because this one's a hard one. Leaning off a little bit to the right, I keep this left leg really strong and structured. I'm going to try and lift the whole leg in one piece. So my ankle bone and my knee lift together and come down. If you notice as that leg lifts up, it kind of wants to shoot forward. That's our hip flexors wanting to really play along. So I'm working to keep the front of my hip here long and do the lifting from back here. If it's not going anywhere, lean right over onto your elbow. The more lean we give ourselves, the more lift we'll be able to get. The more we try and stay upright, even with no hands, the more wonderful that feels. And then to switch sides, we're going to keep that knee lifted, extend, get that good butt cramp happening, reach that leg forward, take that left leg in front, and draw that right leg around behind. And then you just start again. So I would begin with my left leg pushing down and then pulling up. I'd give myself that self-massage for my right hip. I'd go through my external rotation, my internal rotations, and then finally my lift-offs. So feel free to move through that whole series on your second side here now on your own. Feel free to hit the pause button, and then I'll meet you back here. So now I'm going to practice those switches really fluidly side to side, shifting onto a hand as necessary or leaving the hands off the floor. I'm going to move my weight into my right hip, lift the left leg off, extend it out to the side, kick it forward. Both feet up in the air for a moment as I switch and come back around onto that left hip. Lift the right, reach it around, switch, and back. Slowly and smoothly, so that at any moment I could pause and still be in control. And this is how we play on the floor. Something that's good for everyone to do a little bit more often. Thanks for watching today, guys. I look forward to seeing you next time as we follow the detour together.